Hello, Zeb Aurelios from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Inside the Force. Carabas. Gotta go, Hera's here.
It is a period of Star Wars mania, as new movies, comic books, novels, and TV shows populate the system. Fueled by their love and passion for the galaxy far, far away, two exceptional geeks tap into hundreds of holocrons in order to bring you the knowledge and insight of all things Star Wars. Come and join them as they go inside the Force.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham with me today is Cody Geiler.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
What's up, man?
Hey. What's up? Good to be here.
Great to have you as we dive into some much needed discussions about the return of Star Wars Rebels.
It's back.
It is back, and it's about to be gone again here in a second, forever.
It's very short-lived.
Yeah, at least new episodes in a way. The finale is approaching quickly here. The next Monday evening when we get the finale, it's weird because they're calling it a 90-minute finale, even though I think it's 2 episodes. I think there's a 30-minute episode. And then,
it looks like it's broken into like 3. There's the 30-minute, and then there's a 2-parter, which I don't know how long the 2-parter
correct.
actually is.
The 2-parter is an hour. So
okay.
It's like the 90-minute finale, but you're right. It's called, I got it right in front of me here. It's called, right in front of me. So premiere, A Fool's Hope is the first, is at 8:30. And then, like you said, it's called Family Reunion Dash and Farewell. That's the 2-parter finale, which is an hour. So instead of starting at 9, it starts at 8:30 with the first 30 minutes of Fool's Hope, and then the 1-hour finale. So that is coming up. We weren't able to do a show last week, so we have not talked about any of these episodes. So I got Cody on here, who's caught up. We will dive into all that here in a minute. Before then, I want to run through just some brief news the past couple of weeks that we'll just hit on. Cody, did you hear J.J. Abrams has finished the script?
I did. I watched his little Colbert
Yes.
interview segment. He tried to get anything he could out of him, and he said, the script is done. And he said he hasn't always had the luxury of having the script finished before he's gone to shoot a movie. So he's excited about that.
Which is strange.
Which a part of me is wondering if he's referencing some stuff with Force Awakens, because they kind of had to scramble to write that script quickly with him and Lawrence Kasdan. And then luckily they had the unfortunate accident with Harrison Ford,
right,
which probably allowed them to do some more work on the script throughout the production process. But, I mean, it's exciting. There's a script for 9. There's probably a title. Can't wait to get some more information of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think he's mentioned late in the fall, I guess August or something like that, they start shooting episode 9. So having it, you're 4 months ahead or three or 4 months ahead of and ready to go. I feel like they're going to be. I mean, I feel like it's pretty well known in his head, and I guess in Kathleen Kennedy's head. I mean, they know exactly how this is going to end, this trilogy in a way. Which is, like you said, a little kind of a far cry from the beginning of 7 when there was scrambling from changing the scripts, and so that means the story changed a lot. Not a lot, maybe, but it changed. I mean, it changed a lot in the sense that we thought Episode 7 was going to be more about Luke, and it wasn't. So at least they know where this is going to head and how it's going to end. So we will get that December of 2019. Unfortunately, we're
so far away.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're a long way away from there so far. But we do have a new movie coming still. Solo is hitting theaters here May 25th.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting in the sense that I think people know this, but it's still good to keep reminding people. I mean, May 25th was the day that Star Wars actually came out in 1977. So 20 or 41 years later, on the same exact day, another Star Wars movie is coming out. So it's pretty awesome to remember that. I think this May the 4th is going to be really special.
Yeah. I mean, we might even get another trailer in that same week or that day. Could be like the last trailer of the movie potentially.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you see the international poster and trailer got posted just like a little while ago today?
I didn't see the trailer. I saw the poster. I didn't know there was a trailer.
There's a trailer. I just saw it once. It looks like there's only 1 to 2 new shots of Han in his speeder. Mm-hmm. Nothing major. It's almost like a blink and you miss it shot, because it's cut pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The poster is kind of cool looking. Have you got a chance to see that?
Poster's awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. It's just them two, Han and Chewie and the Falcon in the background.
Yeah, standing there. There's some like dust sort of floating up around them, and it's hard. It's kind of the one I'm looking at. It's kind of a low res. I don't know if there's a better version of it. Obviously some photoshopping involved, but it's a cool shot of just Han and Chewie together. That's one thing I think they were missing on the first trailer, which I'm really looking forward to see what they put out next, is like that iconic moment, in A New Hope when they're running to the Falcon, they're sort of getting chased in that blaster fire, and Han and Chewie are kind of standing there side by side, firing together, and then we got that sort of mirrored shot in The Force Awakens. I think the second trailer where they do the classic Han does the Chewie we're home line.
Yeah,
I think it'd be really cool to end a trailer with like a classic Han and Chewie posing with their guns out.
Yes,
sort of mirroring all those movies.
No, I agree.
That's what this poster made me think of, at least, anyway.
Yeah, it's very, again, teaser-ish. It's very, I feel like they've all come out with, Episode 7, Rogue One, and then Episode 8. They've all come up with these first, I guess, what do you call them, like first teaser posters where it's just the logo, on the starry sky background. They had Star Wars Force Awakens logo on that. They had Last Jedi. Rogue One was just the Rogue One, and it had like Rebellion starts with Hope, or Hope. Rebellion is built on Hope, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then of course they have teasers, which have characters usually on them. So Force Awakens, we got all those ones where the half the face was covered. With Rey had her staff, Han had his gun. Finn actually had the lightsaber, which was weird. Again,
yeah, they really teased us with that.
Kylo with his, and then we got all those character posters from Rogue One with all the Death Star plans on the people's kind of faces. Then you had the ones with Last Jedi. We already got the teaser posters with characters from Han. Or from Solo. So this is actually, this is an international poster, so it's not a U.S. poster. I guess the U.S. posters are the individual character ones, so a little different. But the point is they've always done these, scene stealing or just character driven posters until they actually have the collage poster, which is the final one. Which is usually ones I get. I have those hanging on my walls, the final posters, which I love all those, obviously. I think those are all great, great posters.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see. I know Drew Struzan, I think he's the artist that did a lot of the posters for the original trilogy and the prequels,
yes.
if I'm remembering correctly.
That's right.
And he did an alternate one for The Force Awakens that was a limited release. I'd be interested to see if he continues to do any for any other movies.
He did, you're right. I remember that one. Yes, that was an awesome one. Yes. I never saw that for sale, though. I don't know if that ever made it to print.
I think it was like an exclusive thing, and I don't know if it was released at a event or...
Yeah, it might have been a Comic-Con thing or something.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that one. Yeah, he did the special edition posters back in '97.
Okay.
And then he did the prequel ones in that same kind of vein. Because those all three, I know it's weird because I know when you look up the posters, even on the website, StarWars.com, when you go to the individual movies, episode 4, 5, and 6 are the original posters from, 77, 80, and 83. None of them no one actually really uses or references the special edition posters, which, if you remember, they're kind of built to be together as one. Because A New Hope was, kind of everybody's looking to the left, and it's mainly the people in A New Hope, which are Luke, Leia, Han, and then you have Obi-Wan, and then you have the Falcon and like some TIE fighters. So it doesn't really look, there's no villain on there. It's not like a towering background shot of Vader in that. Because in Empire, it's really just Vader, the Emperor, and like a big Star Destroyer, and all these walkers because it's just the Empire. And then you have Return of the Jedi, where everybody's kind of looking to the right, and again, it fills in the rest of the characters. It's got Jabba and Chewie, Lando, Boba Fett, but it does have a little silhouetted battle, lightsaber battle from Luke and Vader. So when they're together, you put them in a row. It's seamless. It's like a big collage of posters, which was really cool because I have them. I bought them when they came out, and together, again, if you had them all three on the wall, you can see it. But if individually, it looks kind of strange because it just seems like it doesn't sum up the plot of the movie. Everybody who's all in the movies. Mm-hmm. Because I remember having at one point I had just Return of the Jedi up, and it was like, well, where's Luke and Han and Leia? There's no pictures of them on that. So it's kind of weird. But but anyway, Drew did those, and then he did this prequels, which obviously those are more collage based and isolated per movie, which are really cool. So anyway, I'm sure most people know that. Maybe I don't know. Posters. So yeah, that was a little stint on the posters. Great posters. Solo coming out May 25th. Cody, what's your level of excitement for Solo as of right now?
Oh man, I think every day it's growing. I mean, the trailer or teaser trailer, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it was enough to sort of take a lot of the questions of what happened with the director change, and just, kind of throw that out the door and get excited about a new movie. I think I really like Alden as Han so far. I'm really trying to go in with just sort of a fresh look, give him the benefit of the doubt. I know it's going to be tough for a lot of fans and even for me, but I'm just trying to sort of let my pre-existing notions of Han go away and just hope that he can do that sort of tough exterior but lovable inside, version of that Harrison Ford created of Han. And I think there's a few moments in the trailer that really do that when he's talking to Kira, especially. But the ending of the trailer just kind of feels like a big Star Wars moment. Everybody's, in a cockpit. Things are seemingly going fine, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong. So I can't wait.
Yeah, it's funny because I definitely want to point out that and I don't know if everybody agrees, but ever since the marketing started, do you remember? Ever since the first teaser we got for episode 7, which was that Thanksgiving, I think, of 2014, right?
Yep.
When they dropped those quick images, and then all of a sudden it's like the Falcon, and you got the Star Wars theme, and the first look at the logo, and it's like, ever since then, you and I, we work together. We're both in that business. It's like the marketing for these Star Wars films to me, really has been flawless. Mm-hmm. Just the timing of when they release things, and people may argue, why they wait so long for Solo, or why they didn't do as much for Rogue One. It's like, but it feels like they just give you the just amount of time, just amount of footage at the right time, just in order to keep building that anticipation. It's incredible. Obviously, it's paid off because you can see the box offices of these films. And yes, the marketing for Solo was so late, but you just had a movie 4 months ago, not even 4 months, not even 3 months ago, come out, and that's still in theaters. Like, I could have went and saw The Last Jedi last weekend if I still wanted to. As well as the Solo trailer that's playing in front of like Black Panther, right? So, whatever it is, whatever they're doing, they just got to keep doing it because it is unbelievably working. Because just like you said, I think even though, I mean, like right now, think about it. Right now, we got Super Bowl came out, we got the teaser, the game spot or whatever. Then we get the teaser, and there was all this talk of Solo. Well, what happened? Well, it's kind of frozen in a sense. And why? Because Rebels is now out. And everybody's not focused on Rebels because it's all everybody's talking about right now is Rebels. What's happening with Rebels? And I don't think, if you think about it, I mean, Monday we're going to get the finale. I don't think, we're not going to hear anything this weekend or get anything from Solo this weekend. It's, Rebels is going to come out. They're going to do probably a little week of that just to let everybody digest how that finale, and then they're going to ramp it right back up, I think. Yeah,
I mean, well, you got the Last Jedi release coming soon in March, so it's kind of like we've got Rebels taking us through this month, and then we gear up for the Last Jedi release, which they'll probably put a little more marketing push into that.
You're right.
And then that'll sort of kind of have the conversation because you got these new deleted scenes and things that we'll end up seeing and talk about what's going to be on there and the behind the scenes and the commentaries and stuff. And then right after that, like you said, they're going to probably ramp up Solo. I mean, the timing has been like impeccable. I mean, you nailed it. Yeah.
And then that's what I was mentioning too. And I think in a couple episodes ago, I was like, when Solo comes out in May, everybody's gonna be talking about that for a few months. And then in the summertime, it's like, what better time then to drop new TV show, new animated show, what's coming and more novels and whatever. I mean, there's going to be so much announced, I think, this summer. That everybody's going to be buzzing about that. And then, of course, episode 9 starts shooting and blah, 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 blah. So, it's crazy how it's rolling out. So speaking of stuff to come out, real quick, I will mention before I talk about The Last Jedi, just to make people aware, I don't know if anybody's really seen an official announcement on this, but I just saw a tweet about it. Somebody tweeted out last week. They said, "Will we get a new season of Star Wars Forces of Destiny? Really enjoy watching our female heroes and their own adventures." Tracy, I'm going to butcher her name. Canabio. She is actually the publicist for Lucasfilm, and she replied, "New Forces of Destiny animated content is coming, I promise." So, just to make sure, we're getting more Forces of Destiny too. So, I feel like that'll be fed, out to the public here this summer as well. I think we're getting a lot more of that.
Might fill that gap after, like you were saying, after Solo, before we get any kind of announcement on anything else.
I do. I think so. I think that's going to be the next content for a little while until we figure out what's coming as far as television and other television series. Now, I saw a Twitter thread today too about. Now, I don't think I ever saw it official either, but they kept mentioning that Filoni himself has said an announcement is coming very soon about a new show. But I don't know if I've ever seen that official, or I don't know if you've seen anything like that.
I haven't seen anything. I haven't really seen any rumors of something coming soon.
Right.
I just assume that, like, when these Rebels episodes were created and finished, this is stuff that's done, a while ago, and
Correct.
Obviously it's releasing currently. So, whenever they wrapped Rebels, they've probably had a team working on it before they wrapped, and once they finish, they've probably been already working on whatever's coming next. And I
Agreed.
assume they'll use a very similar art style as Rebels. I mean, they took a lot of the characters they developed in Clone Wars and are able to expand on that. And Rebels has a different art style than the Clone Wars, but I assume they'll use that same style, which will probably allow them to not have to create as many elements and then, go into production a little faster with the animation.
I agree. And just like all technology, I think it's taking less and less time to create these episodes versus, Clone Wars, where I think they were almost like a year and a half ahead with most stuff, and it took a little longer. Because it took them that long to really get it done. So I think that stuff's getting faster. Big thing. Okay, so like we said, big thing in March is The Last Jedi coming to your living rooms and movie theaters, at home movie theaters. But the first thing coming out, which I'm ecstatic about, is the novelization of The Last Jedi, which comes out this Tuesday. So enjoy Rebels on March 5th, March 6th. Go pick up the Last Jedi Expanded Edition, written by Jason Fry. We are going to talk long and hard about that because I'm getting the audiobook that day. I'm going to dive right in because there is a lot of stuff in there that we're reading. I mean, you've been reading the stuff that's coming out in this book?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I won't spoil anything because there are some leaked information, a few images of beginning of the book, and then some little moments. And I've read some just because I'll probably get the book, but I don't. Obviously, already seeing the movie, I don't mind hearing some of these spoilers, out of context. But it seems like there's going to be a lot of new material and some stuff that's going to be a little bit kind of shocking, actually.
Yes.
So I think it'll be cool. It'll definitely be interesting to talk about once the book's been out. Give everybody some time to read it and the audience time to read it. I won't spoil anything, but I'm excited just based on the few leaks that I've read about what's going to be in the book.
I know. I mean it. I've got the novelizations for The Force Awakens and Rogue One, and I haven't listened to them because I haven't heard anything about them that's that much different, than the movies. This really is different. There's a lot of stuff in here, alternate scenes that didn't make the movie or got cut that are included in this. More backgrounds on characters. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's like they, all the questions that people had walking out of Last Jedi, it's like, oh, we're going to put it in the book. So it's just really interesting. I think it's going to cause people to, raise that question again about what's canon, what's not canon. How does that work? All that stuff. But I mean, everything in here should be canon. So, so go check that out. We're going to be talking about it for sure on this show. So
I might get it on Audible. I think I've got some Audible credits saved up.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing that. Okay, so after that, of course, a week later, on the 13th, is the digital release of Star Wars The Last Jedi. So you can buy it on iTunes and Google or wherever you buy your movies digitally. And then 2 weeks after that, at the end of March 27th, is the Blu-ray release as well as the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray release. So the first Star Wars film to be released on 4K will be coming out March 27th. What do you do? You buy digital or you buy discs?
Usually I buy digital and I like the Blu-ray. So a lot of times I've bought both because I'm impatient for The Force Awakens. I bought digital because it came out like a week or so early. What does this one come out a week or two early?
It comes out 2 weeks earlier, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll buy it on digital because I want it 2 weeks early. I want to be able to watch it, do the commentary, the behind the scenes, and all that.
That's right.
And then as far as the Blu-ray, I mean, I won't have a need to pick up the 4K. I have a 4K TV. I don't have a 4K Blu-ray player. I usually play everything through the PlayStation 4, so I'll get the Blu-ray, but I might be a little slower to get it because a lot of times I've kind of been unsure about what content they're going to put on the Blu-ray disc. There was a big issue, and maybe I'm the only one that cares about this, but The Force Awakens, they didn't have a commentary on the original Blu-ray or the digital. I bought the digital, never bought the Blu-ray until they came out with a 3D Blu-ray like months later. It finally had the J.J. Abrams commentary. I think they basically had to like pry the commentary out of him to get him to sit down and record it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for this one, we know that there's going to be Rian Johnson commentary, which I'm excited about. We know there's going to be all these deleted scenes, so I'll probably do the digital, and then I'll eventually want to buy the Blu-ray just to sort of have the set of Blu-ray. But how about you? What do you usually go for?
I usually go digital, all digital, and nowadays, but I do those. I do the Blu-rays for Star Wars just as a collector item, just so I can have it on the shelf. Yeah. I rarely ever pop them in. The only time I've ever actually popped any of these movies in lately is when we did those commentaries. But no, I watch everything digitally. That there's that new app, that Movies Anywhere app, that links all of your accounts. So wherever if you get it on iTunes, I usually buy mine through. I have an Xbox, so I usually buy mine through Microsoft. And that translates. That all translates with if you have a Vudu account or if you have Google, iTunes, Windows, whatever. It all filters in this Movies Anywhere now. So it really doesn't matter where you get them, but that app I have on everything, so I can watch it anywhere and all that. So I collect Blu-ray. The only Blu-ray discs I buy now are Star Wars, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the DC Extended Universe, and Pixar and Disney movies for the kids.
Yeah,
that's it. It's the only thing I ever buy. And now I've I've purchased some movies like I purchased what I watched recently, Creed. I watched Creed. Bought that. Bought no, that was actually on Netflix. I was thinking the Paradox, the Cloverfield thing, but that was streaming. So anyway, I'll occasionally buy some movies here and there when I'm watching them. But
I think the last one I got was Rogue One. To be honest, I think all I get Blu-ray wise is just Star Wars lately.
Yeah, lately that's all I'm getting. So anyway, that was so that's coming out this month. So it's like you said, it's really a Last Jedi month. I feel like it's their last push for all that. I mean, again, it's still in theaters if you want to go check it out. It was only, I think, on I had two showings, I think, this weekend here in our town. So it's going to be out, if not this weekend, probably next weekend. So that's all the news for that. I was going to quickly look up, since I was mentioning it, The Last Jedi in theaters has done, so it looks like it's going to exit out around 618 million domestically, 711 million foreign, international. So $1.33 billion in box office.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby for a Star Wars movie. Yep. Not near as much as, Force Awakens, but that was kind of unbelievably received.
It was after sort of a drought of
huge drought,
movies. So
plus, I think I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I think 9. I think JJ's got a pretty good hold on this thing. I think 9's gonna probably outdo Last Jedi. I think 9.
As far as box office,
yes.
or just reception.
I think both. I think his movies. I don't know. I think they're. I can't say they all do well because not all his movies do well in the theaters, but it's like, I just think I think the reception of episode 9 is going to be really big, and I think more people are going to go see it again and again and again, because it's being the last one of this trilogy, and it's going to be, I think, better laid out, and obviously there's going to be a conclusion to it as opposed to The Last Jedi, which I think it was they had obviously a huge opening weekend, but a lot of people fell off of it because a lot of people got turned away off of it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it as much as I saw it 4 times. Did I see it 4 times? Yeah, I saw it 4 times.
I actually saw it one more time than I saw The Force Awakens in theaters.
Really?
I saw it 5 times. It was like a crazy.
See, I saw Force Awakens 7 times.
Flurry. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It was like a flurry of seeing Last Jedi opening weekend. It just kind of aligned to where we all saw it opening weekend together. Then we saw it for the screening that we had the next day. And then I went with, a couple friends, and then I took my mom, which was a really cool experience because she talked about when she went and saw the original Star Wars back in the same city that we were both seeing The Last Jedi when it came out. It was just kind of a cool thing. So, just ended up in seeing it a bunch of times. But
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it same as you. Obviously, we saw it Thursday night, Friday, and then I saw it that Sunday, and then I eventually took my daughter to see it, so I saw it 4. But I think the Force Awakens, I saw all 7 in like 2 weekends. Like I went a lot.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so
I got Movie Pass, so the 5th time I saw it, it was just a random night, and I was like, my wife was out working, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go see Last Jedi again.
Sweet, yeah. How many times did you see Rogue One?
Not as many.
I saw it 3 times.
Maybe twice. I don't think I saw it 3 times.
Did you see it? You saw it opening night with us, and then the screening.
Yep, I think that was it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I did. I did 1 other time, so I did 3 times, but. And I think that's been my favorite one out of the 3, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah. Love Rogue One.
It's great.
All right, so let's dive into, let's talk about this stuff because this is incredible what we've gotten these past 2 weeks.
Talking about Rebels.
Let's talk about Rebels. I know it's been a little, it's been some time. I know a lot of people put out their opinions and stuff like that. So we don't have to dive in too deep as far as what's happened in the episodes, but definitely some things that have come out of those episodes that have changed the landscape of these characters. So
if you're not caught up, spoilers probably
correct.
From here on out.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, definitely. First 2 episodes off the hiatus that when we returned, entitled Jedi Knight, Knight as in Night. Jedi Knight and Doom came out 2 weeks ago. Obviously, the big discussion to come out of all of that is, again, spoiler, the death of Kanan Jarrus. So take us back. Your thoughts, Cody, on for one, when did you realize that was going to happen, and 2, how big of an impact has that been on the show?
I think so. They released the title Doom. I think the 2. When they were doing the 2 episodes back to back, you saw it was Jedi Knight and Doom. When I saw the title Doom, like Dume, spelled like his name, and just the fact that it also kind of feels ominous, like the word Doom. I kind of was expecting in that somewhere in those episodes we were going to lose Kanan. And then I think on Twitter I'd read somebody say, like they saw the episodes beforehand and said like it was a really emotional episode. They didn't spoil anything, but they just mentioned like the episodes were really great, really emotional. And then I was kind of like, okay, yeah, something like we're losing a character this week somehow. But I mean, it was so well done. Kanan doing sort of the ultimate Jedi thing to do, sacrificing himself. It was the music in that moment was. I'm trying to think of is his name Kanan? The the guy who does the score for Rebels.
Yeah, I think so.
He does such a good job of capturing the feel of Star Wars music in the vein of John Williams, and it's that moment when he's holding back the flames and he just looks back. It was I think I told Casey right after watching it, I was like, that's kind of the moment I wanted with Luke at the end of The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Like I wanted him to do this epic Force display and to save everyone.
That's
and it was
exactly right.
It was a moment that felt like it belonged in a Star Wars movie, to be honest. It was that good. And sometimes I don't love every Rebels episode, but this one was really great. And it's obviously sucks to lose Kanan. But it was just done really well.
Yeah, it was weird because I had the episode, the show we did before that it came back. We did our predictions, and I mentioned to Casey, and we both agreed. Kind of, I think everybody kind of anticipated that if anybody has to die, it has to be Kanan and Ezra. I mean,
yeah,
it's just a big how question mark if they survive and you go into the original trilogy and Rogue One, all these things without these characters. Of course, in Rogue One, you see a little bit, glimpses of the Ghost and whatnot, and we know that Hera through comics, Hera is on Hoth, is on Endor, blah 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 blah. So we know the fate of some of these characters, but we don't know anything about Sabine, Zeb, Kanan, and Ezra. So, of course, them being Jedi, I think it's just inevitable that they got to be gone. So it's weird going back into this episodes. I thought, okay, we're going to eventually lose them. I didn't think we were going to lose him the first episode back. So it did come as a surprise to me, and it came at such a, like you just said, such a heroic display and selfless display. It was. I literally, I don't know any better way to have Kanan go out than the way he did, and the fact that part where his eyes kind of come back, and I mean that gave me chills, man. It was just jaw dropping that how they set that up, and like you said, the score was incredible. I mean, even the motion, like I know it's animated, but the emotion that Sabine had when it happened, I mean, in her face, it was like, wow, she looks extremely hurt.
Yeah, and they had just built up their relationship in that episode to kind of get you to that point where you were just heartbroken when it happened. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so as it goes on, and because that was the end of the episode Jedi Knight, so then you have Doom, and it's the fallout of the death and what is next for these rebels, and of course Hera, expressing her feelings finally, I guess in a way. They've been together for a long time. I just doesn't seem like they've been really that intimate together. Because I think A New Dawn, the book that they meet each other in, I think is set, 4 or 5 years before this. And then of course now we're about we're about 2 or 3 years into the series. So they've known each other for a good 7, 8, 9 years. And I think this is the first time she's said this. Is that the feeling you got, that the first time she says "I love you"?
I haven't finished A New Dawn.
Well, I know she doesn't. I know she doesn't say it in that.
Okay, so if she hasn't said it in that, then I definitely never heard it in Rebels.
No, definitely not. So that's what I'm saying. So it makes you feel like that they've been having this kind of, I guess I don't know if it's not a really intimate relationship, but it's more like a. I love you, unspoken, I love you, you love me, or I love you and I know kind of thing, but they never say it. They just know that they have something for each other. And now, of course, right when she said that, it's like, oh man, something bad's going to happen, of course, they go on top of the fuel thing, fuel containers. Like, okay, that's easily going to be destroyed. Anyway, so I felt like at that point they kind of telegraphed it a little bit, but again, how he did it, stopping the blast for a certain period of time, pushing Hera. I mean, the fact that he was like just holding her in place, as well as deflecting these flames that were, getting ready to engulf them. Again, I don't know a better way to go out. That was incredible what Filoni chose to do there.
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome use of force power, and it was just a moment that you honestly just I want to see something like that in a movie now. It's one of those things where a lot of times we take the movies as sort of being this upper echelon of canon, and Rebels has kind of taken a lot of and captured what the Star Wars feel is, and sometimes they do kind of kooky, quirky, cartoony things, because they have freedom on television and in animated show. But this time I feel like they're kind of setting the bar for what they can do in movies of like, this is
absolutely
a Jedi in his prime that's, using the Force in a way that we haven't really seen it, on that scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're right. I feel like they did that towards the end of the Clone Wars, seasons. They got to the point where it was like, okay, it's serious time. We're going to tell some major stories here. We're going to really have some characters stand out and do things, that you would, like you said, see possibly in a bigger production or a film. And it's interesting you said the comparison about Luke, because I didn't even really think about that. And that would have been, I think people would have went crazy for something like that. If he was physically there, if he physically sacrificed himself, because a lot of people made the argument that if he came and sacrificed himself, well, how's that any different than Obi-Wan? We need new material and blah 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 blah. And it's like, but the way you sacrifice is what you can do differently, just like what he did, with Kanan.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. I totally think that should have been the ending of Last Jedi, but as we get into these, I got into Doom. It was, do you feel like or get the sense that this Loth Wolf is Kanan? Or is it?
That really confused me, to be honest, at the end of Doom. I was kind of like questioning the Loth Wolf thing for a while, and then there was all this speculation. I don't know if you read about it or bought into any of it. When the first Loth Wolf, that's hard to say, Loth Wolf was introduced.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people made this connection of, is that Ahsoka manifesting herself? And then, they kind of made it seem like, he was saying doom at the end. And I was just kind of like baffled by it, to be honest. Cause, the idea of, what happens when you die as a Jedi and, being a Force ghost and being one with the Force, I kind of assumed if you hadn't had the training, like Qui-Gon sort of first learned partial training and passed it on to Obi-Wan, and then Yoda learned, that you weren't able to, come back as a Force ghost. But now they're sort of showing there are other ways that, Force users are able to continue to, communicate. And maybe it was, Kanan after all. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by that because he says, as we talk about later, but he says goodbye to Kanan later, where there's, the Loth Wolf is in the distance.
Yep.
So, but he did say, but like you said, the Loth Wolf said doom when Kanan was still alive. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little confused by that as well. I got the sense that it was Kanan after he passed. But again, he was already there. That wolf was already there. It wasn't like the white wolf just showed up after he died.
Right.
So I don't know what they did. I'm not sure. I guess maybe his spirit kind of, took his place or is there with, because there was that shot too of in the next episode where Hera, Kanan's standing next to Hera almost in a sense with his hand on her shoulder. Was that real or was that her just imagination? Because then you're getting into whether or not he became a Force ghost, which I don't think is possible.
I don't think that he got the training to become a Force ghost. I think that's why they introduced. Well, I don't know why they introduced the wolves in general. I think that's why they kind of had his spirit associated with the wolf and a way for Ezra to say goodbye. Honestly, I don't love the idea of the wolves. Just gotta be honest. I get that Dave Filoni really likes wolves, and that's why they're in it. And that to me seems like it's kind of like, okay, so you just really like these things. So now they're a part of Star Wars. But not only they're a part of it, they're like connected to the Force. And I'm like, what? How do wolves connect to the Force? It's a little bit in the weeds for me. But that's one of the things that I feel like you can do with these animated television shows that, hope don't really creep into the movies where wolves talk and use the Force in some ways.
True.
I don't know.
Did you know, or were you at Celebration when they talked about the origin of those wolves? I can't remember if you were at that celebration.
Was this before my first celebration was
last year?
The last one, yeah.
Yeah,
so
but I can't remember
if that was before or after.
Well, did you ever go to a Clone Wars panel?
We went to what was I don't remember what the panel was called, but it was one where they unveiled like some concept art that hadn't been shown, and they had some unfinished animatics of Clone Wars and stuff like that.
So it was at the one, because at one of those, Filoni talked about the Order 66 episodes. Because Clone Wars was supposed to actually overlap a little bit with episode 3. Were you at that one? Do you remember that one?
I don't know if I recall.
See, I feel like this was the one before. I feel like this was the one in Anaheim.
Okay.
But anyway, there was him and Pablo were up there talking about how their goal they had like 9 seasons planned for Clone Wars. And one of the seasons was, I think it was either 7 or 8 that was going to start overlapping into episode 3. So, Ahsoka, it was planned that she was going to leave like at the end of season 5, but then they were going to bring her back and this was in her novel, the Ahsoka novel. There's a part where so Anakin and Obi-Wan finish a mission, and they find out that there's that the whereabouts of Darth Maul. Darth Maul's still alive, and he did what he did in season 6 or whatever, the Lost Missions, where he or I think it was season 5, that he took over Mandalore, and he had like that union between Black Sun and the Mandalorians and whatnot. And so Obi-Wan and Anakin found out about this, so they were going to go after him, but then they got the call from Coruscant that the Chancellor had been kidnapped, which was the beginning of episode 3, right? So they jump in their starships, but before then, he goes and recruits and asks Ahsoka to come back temporarily and lead his clone legion to go after Darth Maul. So that is why, because she leads Rex, and that is why Rex is not in episode 3. So her and Rex and all these clones are going after, and they fight Darth Maul. She actually has a lightsaber battle with Darth Maul. It obviously ends up being a draw or whatever, because he ends up getting I guess defeated by the Emperor at some point. And Ahsoka goes. So what happens though is, while that's happening, and again, Rex finds out about the chip and all that stuff, and that's why he's not triggered when Order 66 happens. But when Order 66 happens, Ahsoka is on, I can't remember what planet. She's on a planet, and clones actually come and to kill her. She escapes and runs away on wolves, on a big wolf, which is this Loth wolf in a sense. I mean, at the time it wasn't a Loth wolf, but there was concept art of her jumping on this big, large wolf and running away. And that was at that point, that was Filoni's way of getting his wolves in a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that never came to be. So then he was able to get them into this, series now. But there was so much with Ahsoka that we didn't get to see. In Clone Wars, obviously, that's Filoni was able to bring her back in Rebels, which Rebels is, in essence, a continuation of the Clone Wars. Now it's all kind of wrapping up.
Yeah. I mean, and it's cool. I mean, it's cool that Ahsoka's back. I mean, I don't know if we want to jump into that.
Yeah, we'll go into these last two episodes. These last ones, Wolves in a Door was the first episode, and then A World Between Worlds. So now Wolves in a Door. This whole thing, what really drew my attention to these episodes was in the mid-season premiere trailer or whatever, mid-season trailer that they did hyping these episodes, was the picture or painting of Mortis, the Mortis characters, father, son, and daughter, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, hopefully, if you've seen the Clone Wars, if you're a big fan of Rebels, you've seen those episodes, it's in season 2. I'm sorry, I think it's season 3 of the Clone Wars. And I actually went back and watched them again before these episodes aired. I watched the 3-episode arc in Clone Wars, where, just to recap, that there's a distress signal that's coming from an unknown part of the galaxy beyond the Outer Rim. The Council sends Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, and they end up going to this location, and there's this big, big fortress-looking cube hanging in the galaxy, and it, opens. This bright light comes in and kind of sucks them in. Next thing you know, they wake up, they're landed on this somewhat interior planet. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, but there's a lot of big questions that came about with that whole arc, because it introduced a whole nother side of the Force. Obviously previously not explored or people not even knew about. This series, obviously this thing too came from, Clone Wars came from Lucas. So this is directly from George about who the father was, who the son was. The son was a dark side person, basically. The daughter was a light side person, and the father kept them in balance, which then reflected basically the balance throughout the entire galaxy. It was just a big concept to wrap your head around.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It makes you think and rethink about what balance means. I mean, I think when we watch the original trilogy and you see, Luke, and then, he is able to appeal to Vader, Anakin, who overthrows the Emperor, and you think that there's this idea of finality. We never really knew that there was going to be anything after episode 6. And then we go back and we see the prequels, and we get the idea of the Chosen One and the idea of him bringing balance to the Force. And then in a roundabout way, Anakin kind of brings balance to the Force, even though it's not necessarily the way that the Jedi might have wanted. But then now, we get this Mortis arc, and then we touch on it again in Rebels, of what is balance. Is it light and dark? Because you have, like you said, the son and the daughter. The son is dark, the daughter is light, and the father is sort of the balance in between them, and kind of keeps them both at bay. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those things came up going into The Last Jedi. They kind of teased us with light, dark, and balance in some of those trailers. And we got into it a little bit, but we didn't really get into that idea of balance and a potential middle ground. There was a lot of questions of, will Luke actually be on the light side of the Force? Would he end up being like sort of non-existent gray Jedi, which didn't happen? I don't know. Yeah, it's just interesting. It kind of makes you rethink what you thought you knew about the balance of the Force.
Or in my mind, it's like does the balance of the Force even mean anything? Does it even matter? Because if you think about it, in that Mortis arc in the Clone Wars, the whole point of that, the whole point of the effort of the father, who ended up being the one that sent the distress call, he's trying to prevent his son from leaving because apparently if his son leaves and enters in the galaxy, it's just gonna destruction is just gonna engulf. The darkness is gonna spread and it's just gonna be chaos, right? So he's getting weaker. So his point was to lure the chosen one, who is the only one that can take his place, to keep the balance. And it's like, well, but in the end, spoiler, if anybody hadn't seen it, in the end of that arc, though, they all die. The father, the daughter, and the son, right? So it's like, and so how much ramification did that actually have with the Force and the balance of the Force? Because we went on, Anakin went on and did his thing. I mean, he even saw, that was so cool about that series. He got glimpses of what he became. He becomes Darth Vader, but then the father erased it from him. But he saw what it was, and he was going to make it better. He was going to change or whatever, but he ended up falling to the dark side because of it. But anyway, it was just a crazy arc that got kind of thrown into this, just what you thought was just a war.
Yeah, it was weird because it like you said, it was just kind of, it was thrown in, and then it sort of came to finality. The fact that they were all dead.
Yeah.
And then you never touch on it again.
Yeah, and then it went
now
away.
It comes back up in this painting on the Temple and Rebels, and then you're like, oh, so do they have anything to do with the beginnings of the Force or Jedi or Sith? Because, this is a Jedi temple here on Lothal. So, you're thinking, okay, I think we were talking today, and you were mentioning somebody had to make this painting, or it had to come from somewhere. Obviously there's a connection of it with the Force in this temple and the portal. But yeah, it's like, where did it come from?
Right.
Who else knew about it?
Right. Because no one knew about it in the Clone Wars.
None of the Jedi knew about it. Yeah.
Correct. So,
this temple's got to be ancient on Lothal.
Well, it seems like it's one of the first. I agree with you there. I think this is one of the oldest and most ancient temples, because there's some significance to Lothal. It has to be. That's why they chose to do it here. That's why they chose to have Ezra be from there. There's some distant connection with it, which we may get, in later episodes or some other medium. But back to the real quick on the Mortis thing is that, how much does Jedi or Sith or the balance, it almost to me feels like it's just almost like a made up thing that came about with the religion of the Jedi and all stuff. Because to me, if you think about it, it's like the Force is the constant, right? The Force is there. It's there regardless if there's any Jedi or any Sith. It's not like they manifest it. It's the Force is there. They just are able to manipulate it or use it more so than any other being. So to me, it's just the Force is there. It's that binding binding energy field between all living things, and it keeps the galaxy together. Whatever. It's there. Jedis are able to use it in a way to be powerful, and Sith obviously abuse it to be powerful. So, but the balance thing is really, I don't know. It's like you said, there's no real kind of definition for it or explanation for it, because it seems like they're creating a couple stories that really change it each time when you think you have your grasp on it. And because balance, some people thought, well, it's the same amount of Sith and the same amount of Jedi. And when all the Jedis when you had 10,000 Jedis and you had 2 Sith, it's imbalanced. But I don't think that's true, and then you have all the Jedi get wiped out and you have just a couple Jedi and a couple Sith, and it's not in balance because it feels like the dark side is kind of ruling everything. And then, I don't know. And then now where the Last Jedi is, it's like you're back to basically where you were in episode 4, where no one believes in the Force really, or believes in Jedi, or believes in Sith anymore. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just getting the sense that the balance thing this really doesn't matter. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it matters. I mean, I think, like in The Last Jedi, I think Snoke kind of mentions this idea of talking about Kylo and his rise. He says darkness rises and light to meet it.
Right.
And the light to meet it was Rey.
Correct.
Rey came up, I think, because the Force chose her for whatever reason we still might not know yet, to be the embodiment of the light side of the Force to combat, Ben's fall to the dark side into becoming Kylo. So I think there might still be like a cyclical nature of the Force, this sort of like living force that is beyond sort of Sith and Jedi, that works through people or individuals in the galaxy to be able to allow there never to be too much of one thing. But then I still don't really know if balance is equal parts light and dark, or I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's a big question mark in that. So anyway, we get into the Mortis thing, and that's really what drew me to these episodes. It's like, wow, they're bringing Mortis back. They're bringing those characters back. The way that they were used, obviously, is they are, Ezra has to open the gateway into the temple, not knowing that this gateway is actually a place where they call it a world between worlds. And we get Ezra into this place, which looks like, and the thing about it is I don't think you watched it, but if you watch Rebels Recon,
I actually just watched it before we recorded.
Perfect.
Started recording, yeah.
So it was really neat to realize that Ezra has been here before.
When he got his the crystal for his lightsaber. Yeah.
When he talked to Yoda. Seen Yoda. Actually, when Yoda's sitting on that log, it's like he's been in this area, and Filoni pointed that out. And now it's really the explanation of what that area is now, which I don't even think is fully explained. But the big surprise in this, obviously, is the return of Ahsoka and how that came about. So
Ahsoka lives.
Yeah, Ahsoka lives. So, Cody, your thoughts on this area and the return of Ahsoka?
Well, I'll start with Ahsoka coming back. Blew my mind. Did not expect Ahsoka to come back, especially in this way. I thought it was interesting how they, developed this portal world area where you can, for lack of, I'm just going to say time travel. I don't know what they're going to call it. I don't really know. It's sort of this area where it exists beyond time. You can go forward, backward. Everything lines up with how they planned it, with Ahsoka fighting Vader on Malachor to the ending of that episode where she's kind of walking into that triangle looking, entrance or exit. Everything, lines up really well, which I like a lot because it tells me that they planned this.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't a shoehorn way to just bring Ahsoka back. And I'm really glad that she's back. She's a really interesting character. And I actually have a thought of what they might do beyond Rebels, solely based on if we end up seeing her in the finale. So I don't know if she's going to be in the finale. I would hope she would be, because now the big question I have is, where has Ahsoka been for
2 years, basically.
the 2 seasons. However,
2 seasons.
if that's 2 years or however long that lasts.
I think it's a year and a half or something like that, yeah.
Because I assume that moment when Ezra pulls her out and they're in that portal in between world, and then they interact with the Emperor, and then she goes back. I assume she goes back right where she came out, not too far after.
Yeah, a little bit after, I think, because everybody's left and the dust has settled, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, so it'd be really interesting to see where she's been. I kind of feel like pulling her out into this episode sets it up to where she has to be in the finale. But if they end up making an animated series that is more focused on Ahsoka and where she's been and what she's going to do moving forward, then I don't know. Maybe that's a reason why you keep her alive. But I mean, time travel being introduced into Star Wars, that is weird to me, to be honest. Like the first time seeing it and even thinking about it a couple days after now, I like how they used it in this episode. I never expected there to be time travel in Star Wars. And I feel like I don't know whether or not this was an isolated incident, if when they destroyed or closed off this temple, seems like it got destroyed, that if that was the only entrance to this portal, it seems like Palpatine knew about it. Was he in a Sith temple that also had an entrance to the portal but didn't know how to access it?
Right.
Are there other entrances in other temples? How was this created? I have a lot of questions, I guess, is what I'm sort of getting at.
Yes.
And my biggest worry is how, if they ever come back to this, it kind of makes me feel like they can just do whatever they want at any time with any character. And that kind of worries me. And I think I told you off the show, like, they won't ever do this, but if they wanted to, they could have a character go through this portal and stop Anakin from becoming Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just sort of my first thoughts. Rapid.
Or they can go back and just kill Sidious or kill Palpatine when he's a kid or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Which then you get into the whole butterfly effect and, change one thing, change everything, blah, 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 blah. You don't, whole history changes from then. But anyway, so I agree with you. I don't know if that'll ever happen or that would really cause some problems, I think, with people. But I agree with you. I think it's a big question on how they go along with this or what they do with this. It's like the Mortis thing in Clone Wars, it raises a ton of questions, like you said. There's so many that I think will get answered, but I don't know because I don't know if you, like you said, I don't know if you could go down that rabbit hole of time travel and changing events. Because here's the thing I was thinking about is when, while that's happening and then the Emperor shows up and you're getting him basically attacking them through this portal. When they're running from it, because my thought was that Ezra is changing time, is what happens in time, because like we saw at the end of season 2, when Ahsoka and Vader are fighting, temple gets blown up, and all of a sudden we see the shot of her walking, entering this dark hallway or a dark staircase, and she's descending, right? So a lot of people interpreted that, maybe that's her entering the afterlife. She's dead, and
yeah, that's kind of one of the thoughts I had about it.
Right.
Was like that's sort of like a visual way of just sort of like a Disney way of saying Ahsoka died and she's gone now.
Right. I didn't think that. I didn't even think about that, but when I heard other people saying that, I was like, oh, that could be it. But I thought, no, she survived, and she's just going somewhere where she can go to maybe be by herself because, everybody's gone, and she's got to figure out a way to survive. But I get it that, it could be the fact that she passed, and that was her way of leaving. So anyway, but so in my mind, when Ezra literally reaches in this portal and pulls her out, I'm thinking, wow, they are changing history, changing the timeline like you're talking about. She is now going to exist, she's going to skip that much time or whatever in Star Wars, and then I had the feeling that she was going to come back with Ezra and go to Lothal, right? So I was interested in and I got to rewatch it again to make sure. But as they're running from the Emperor's fire, not electricity, but just fire coming from this little pot of stew he had going on, I guess, or whatever.
This little cauldron. I like the pot of stew. That's a good.
Yeah, looked like he was making dinner, and then he was like, "Oh, hey." So he's shooting them with this blue flame that's stretching, as they're running, and they can't run fast enough. But do you remember what they say? I don't know what they say for anything, because he says something like, "Come and find me," or something like that, because she has the presence of mind, I guess, to go back to her time, not go with Ezra.
Yeah, it happened kind of fast. I don't think she ever really mentioned, like, I can't go back with you.
Right.
But didn't she... Wait, did Ezra say, come find me?
He said something like, come find me, and she said something like, I promise, or something like that, I will.
Yeah. So it made it seem like, to be honest, if we don't see her in the finale, I'll kind of feel a little bit upset that they set this up.
Yeah.
Because,
but see, I don't think she's gonna be in the finale.
Yeah, she's not in any of the trailers, but they might still try to save this moment in the episode for people that see the trailer that are behind, and keep it spoiler free. But
because again, the side note is that okay, if she's alive and comes back, it's like, well, why isn't she in Rogue One then? Why isn't she? Yeah. I don't know. So,
well, it would be weird if they give her a different send off, like if she's fighting Thrawn or whoever.
Oh, true. Yeah, and
she dies.
Well, that's true.
I kind of would have rather Vader kill her than like Thrawn. Just story wise and thematically, I think it is a lot more impactful that her former master.
It's still possible Vader could kill her. Now, maybe not in this series, but something else.
Yeah.
Because, a side note, there's a Vader comic right now written by Charles Soule that's out there, and it is after episode 3, and he is hunting Jedi to kill them. Mm-hmm. So at some point, maybe in that series, he actually hunts down, Ahsoka. But anyway, So the point where they split up, that's interesting that she decided to do that. Like I have to go back to my time period instead of going with you. So nothing was broken as far as the timeline goes, right? So, but it does beg to differ. It does bring up the question, like, okay, so the point when Ezra was physically at Malachor, when the end of season 2 was happening, his future self saved Ahsoka, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. He saw himself when that door was closing.
Correct.
Through the portal, yeah.
So, what I'm getting at is that he didn't change history because that's what happened back in the past, which is a whole just paradox thing that it's like
that was always intended to happen.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the whole thing where, like, I keep thinking of like the Back to the Future stuff. It's like, it's, or maybe not Back to the Future because that he does change history though. But it's like at that point, at that point at the end of season 2, Ahsoka. We see Ahsoka walking into that temple. So it's like future Ezra did save her at that point. It wasn't that, that she died and then he goes in this portal in this episode and then saves her and changes history. You know what I mean? Like,
right. That
timeline. And that's where the whole timeline paradox thing comes in. And a lot of that happens in, I know this is a completely different thing, but a lot of that happens in DC with the Flash. Like, you know, things happen in the Flash, you know, with time travel and stuff like that, and it's like part of it. It's like he's on the current timeline, but his future self is sometimes manipulates things to make things go his way. Where this is kind of that way, where it's like the main timeline doesn't get altered. It happens because these things are happening at the same time, and that's kind of Filoni. Actually, I read that in an article today. Was that people are talking about, you know, all those voices that you hear when he's walking around. You know, you're hearing them from all different eras.
Mm-hmm.
You're hearing them from the prequels. You're hearing Yoda from episode 4 or episode 5.
Yeah, there was Kylo was in it.
Kylo, yeah, you had all these different voices, and he talked about how in this place, you know, everything is happening at the same time. Every event. That's why you hear these different things. Like, it's all happening at the same time. That's why he is able to pull her, because that's happening at the same time as her and Vader fighting. It is completely a mind blow.
Yeah, it's nuts
to wrap your head around it. And like you said, it is an interesting, unbelievable thing that they introduced into the Star Wars universe.
Because, like, of all the ways to bring Ahsoka back, she was walking through the temple last time we saw her. She could have just popped up and been like, "Hey guys, I'm back."
I know, right?
It would have felt a little weird, but they wouldn't have had to do time travel. Because now I'm just sort of like wondering, you know, who made this place? Where did it begin? You know, is this
That's
a
true.
place that has to do with, you know, the father, the son, and the mother, or the daughter were all, you know, were on, the painting was on the temple. You know, was this part of their domain? Did they have rule over that? Was it something where the father created to be able to, you know, monitor it? Why would he need to monitor all those things? I have like 2 wild theories of what it is. The first being, if there ever were a way to introduce the wills into Star Wars, you know, in Rogue One we get a reference to the wills that George Lucas sort of created when he was thinking of how the stories of Star Wars would be told. And in Rogue One we get you know, the guardians of the wills. And, you know, if they were these beings that, you know, first adopted the Force, or, you know, started the Jedi, or, you know, whatever, if they sort of told all these stories that we know from Star Wars, if they could exist in a space or go between this space that had portals to all times, you know, that would be an interesting way to say, oh, they could be the record keepers of all the Star Wars stories because they're outside time and space.
Wow.
Which would be interesting, but you know, they didn't reference it at all, and I don't know if we ever will. That's the thing. It's like, I don't know if this will ever come up again, and I don't know if I like that or not. I feel like they did it well in the episode, but I want to know more about it. But then I feel like if we learn more about it, it's going to mess up timelines in the future or past Star Wars stories that we already know or will know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then my other wild theory is that, like, you know, Ezra was able to supposedly stop Ahsoka from dying, whether or not she ever was going to die. I guess, like you're saying with the paradox, we don't know. But Darth Plagueis was mentioned as having a power that could stop people that he cares about from dying, but not being able to stop himself from dying. And the Emperor knew about that power and knew about this place because obviously he was able to connect with Ezra and Ahsoka because of his knowledge of it. So was this portal area something that Plagueis had figured out at one point?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just random thoughts that kind of came about since seeing the episode. But
yeah, it's I mean, it was really neat to see it unfold in an episode, but after you think about it, it is like crazy to think that they introduced this into Star Wars, and is that all we're going to get of it? You know, is just a way to bring Ahsoka back, a clever way to bring Ahsoka back in a way to let us know that she's okay. Because I do have the feeling that I don't think she's going to be back in this finale. I think she's going to be. I think this was a way to tell us that there's more to come from her at some point.
Like that she'll be in future animated or live action or something.
Yep, I do. I think Filoni's because Filoni's going to still be working on stuff. So I think that's the character he helped create, and I think he's very tied to her. And I think there's something beyond this story that we're going to get of Ahsoka, be it possibly even after Return of the Jedi or a lot, like you said, like a live action series that's going to be. I mean, a live action series of Ahsoka would be incredible. I think a lot of people. I think she's grown to be a very big character in a lot of people. So
she's really come a long way. I mean,
has.
I really love the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars movie. It was kind of hard to get around the idea of Ahsoka because like all these animated shows that happen as prequels, the stories are great and they find ways to use the characters, and then now we're getting connections with Saw Gerrera in Rogue One and Hera and the Ghost in Rogue One. So there's connections happening in the movies that haven't been made, but we all know that none of these characters ever existed when the original trilogy and prequels were made. None of them, the idea of them never existed. Right. Anakin never had a Padawan, but they found a way to sort of give Anakin a Padawan for a short period of time through a mix-up. And then she became a character that, is awesome on her own.
Yeah.
And had a really good relationship with Anakin. And then her story through the Clone Wars, when she kind of had that, lost her trust in the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was just a really great arc for her character.
Yes.
So the fact that she's not a Jedi now, even currently, makes me think that we could see her in future Star Wars TV or movies or something.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So I guess in summary, we'll. I think this is a topic that we can still explore for a little bit. If it doesn't come about anymore, then we'll move on from it. But I don't. Right now, I would say I couldn't. It'd be hard for me to believe that they would use that place as a way to change the timeline that we've come to know. One thought that went through my mind was, is this a way to? This is a little far fetched, probably, but is this a way to? I guess naturally explain what happened to the EU.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the EU was the timeline, and this is now changing the timeline or something. I don't know. That kind of crept in my head. Kind of what happened with Star Trek, right? Because they introduced time travel in the J.J. Abrams reboot, where it kind of reset the timeline.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that. What's the common denominator there? You got J.J. Abrams is in both franchises. Now, right. I don't think this was his idea.
I don't think so either.
Sounds like this was a Filoni idea, but it doesn't hurt that he's working on a script for episode 9.
Yeah,
and this idea of potential time travel or a world between worlds exists in Star Wars.
Right.
Could connect all the trilogies together in episode 9 somehow.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the expanding universe was greatly, now not all of it, but 90% of it maybe was stories beyond Return of the Jedi. Right? You had some that lingered. You didn't have any. It was off limits to do anything between 3 and 4. But you had some that were pre-episode 1, like Plagueis and Darth Maul and stuff like that. But then you had Shadows of the Empire was between 5 and 6. But then you had everything that was after episode 6, which was the New Jedi Order and all that stuff, right? So just think about it. That was the timeline, and this could be the way that they let us know that, look, somebody altered it, and now we got what we got out of 7, 8, 9 or whatever, right? So I don't know. I don't think that's true, but I think it crept in my head for a little bit.
I mean, I don't know if they'll ever utilize it in current canon, but if you're saying there's a chance that Kyle Katarn still exists, I'm totally on board.
Yeah, or Mara Jade, or
yeah,
a
lot of really cool characters that
yes,
maybe they could just, if they just introduce them in animated TV shows, where somehow this portal world, is used. I think that I'd be up for that. I think it'd be weird.
I mean, it could be,
yeah,
and it could be too that those portals aren't just visions into the past, but they could be gateways to an alternate universe, right? I mean, the thing about timelines and paradoxes is there's multiple dimensions. So that EU could be just an alternate dimension that you could, it was a version of Star Wars that exists out there, but in a different timeline, So it's like, I don't know if I want to get, I really enjoy the multiverse in the DC universe, with Flash and Superman and Batman and all that stuff. I actually enjoy the multiverse, the way they manipulate the different Earths and that. I do not want it in Star Wars as of right now. I'm just not interested in a multiverse of Star Wars universes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's one galaxy, one timeline, and let's just tell stories from there.
Mm-hmm.
Dimensions, time travel. You're getting to some stuff that just doesn't feel right, because then the Force becomes a whole, it doesn't really become as important anymore to me, in a sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's definitely, I agree. I don't think I would want time travel utilized a lot in the movies or alternate realities. I guess there is something to be said that Ezra had to get access to this by using the Force. So it has a connection to the Force. And the fact that we could... The one thing that I thought was weird with all the voices, I loved hearing all the voices from movies and I don't know if there's anything from Clone Wars in it.
I think there was.
Okay. But we heard Jyn Erso, and I don't know if we heard other non-Force users, but I think it would have been a better choice to only have Force users be heard in this area. But I guess you can see all events, not just events connected.
I think you heard
through
Han.
The Force.
Didn't you hear Han?
Maybe I didn't catch it, but
I think you heard Han. Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that Ezra had to use the Force to get access to this portal, I think it's definitely connected to the Force and in a way. But yeah, a lot of questions, a lot of Star Wars just got really weird.
Got really weird. Yeah, I agree. Okay, anything else on that? I mean, it's pretty good insight, I feel like.
Yeah, I think,
and we got more. We'll have more to talk about, I'm sure, as we go, and a lot more to talk about when we do the finale, which is, again, this Monday, March 5th, starting at 8:30 with A Fool's Hope, and then ending with a 1-hour finale of Rebels entitled Family Reunion and Farewell. So, I think I might get a little emotional. Get a little emotional. It's going to be a great night.
Probably going to lose another Jedi.
Yes, probably going to lose. Yeah, right. Yes. Let's see. So a couple interesting. I threw some polls out there. Let me see if I can I don't remember since the last time we recorded, but I'll just go some polls real fast we put out there on Twitter. One was of the new Star Wars films that have been recently released, which has been your favorite? So Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi. Did you see that poll?
I did. I participated in the poll. I haven't seen the results, so I'm curious to know.
So what did you vote for? Force Awakens, right?
It's got to be obvious. Yeah, Force Awakens. JJ's my boy.
So 53 we got 132 votes on this thing. 53% said The Last Jedi.
What?
35% said Rogue One. So you are one of 12% that said Force Awakens.
12%? I feel like these have to be padded stats. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's voting in these polls or who's listening. But no. I mean, I'm glad people like The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I put one out last week that said, by series end, do you think we lose another member of the Ghost Crew? And if so, reply with who do you think? So there's a little bit of a thread on here. 77% of you said yes, we are going to lose another crew member, and the majority of replies has been, who do you think?
Ezra.
In fact, the majority has actually been Zeb.
Whoa.
Yep.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, we definitely know Hera is mentioned in Force of Destiny and Rogue One. I mean, I bet we lose both of them.
Ezra and Zeb? Wow.
Yeah.
That's very possible. I think Sabine survives. I feel like actually she's going to show up in something else. I think she's a very popular character. I think the Mandalorians we're going to get more stuff out of.
Yeah, I mean, Sabine or Zeb could be one of those kind of characters that could just kind of go off and do their own thing, and we never see or hear of them in the Star Wars universe. And I could buy it.
Yeah, because it's kind of set up that Zeb could join his species on that other planet, that new planet. So it's like he has a place he can go. Sabine has a place she can go back to Mandalorian. And then Hera we know is still part of the rebellion. So it's like it seems like there's conclusions to these characters already, but Ezra is the big question mark. And the poll I just put out just a few hours ago, actually, I put out one that said, "Did you have any idea that Ahsoka was coming back to Star Wars Rebels?" Because I actually didn't. I had no idea she was going to be in this last episode.
Yeah, it shocked me.
So as of right now, 69% said yes.
Oh wow!
So they must have known something that we didn't. So anyway, that's going to run for a couple more days. We'll talk about that results later, and I'm going to get some more polls up there. So, all right, big episode. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks, Cody, for talking through that.
Yeah, love it. Anytime.
We will be back next week to probably dedicate the entire episode. If not, we might do a little news if some hits, but we'll probably dedicate the most of it to discussing what is going to be an epic finale for Star Wars Rebels. And this is great because, I think we talked about it earlier today too. It's like we didn't get that finale with Clone Wars. That it just ended, and because of the buyout, and they weren't going to renew it, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, wow, we didn't get that full closure. I think everybody out there that enjoyed the Clone Wars has never gotten closure from that series, and at least now with this, it's like it's definitely closure with Rebels, but somewhat closure of both series.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get an ending to Ezra's end or something, and then there's a sort of epilogue moment or sort of that moment after the climax where our rebels meet back up, some of our characters go their separate ways, Hera stays with the rebellion, and we kind of get a send off, the idea that Rex is still a part of the rebellion and might actually be that rebel trooper on Endor. There's sort of that roundabout tie-in to a character that wasn't originally intended to be Rex, but could be. And if we get a send off for Ahsoka, in some form or fashion, that would be really cool to get that finality.
Yeah, nice. Okay, last thing I want to mention, because I do think we should hit on this on the next episode or down the road, but a quick thread I wanted to, because we had just had some Kanan mentions right now. We're talking about Kanan. There was a thread that I participated in that, so somebody at Herder on Twitter he tweeted to Pablo, to Matt Martin, and to Leland Chee, are the Vong, the Hussein Vong, which, if everybody doesn't know, is a big kind of civilization that comes and invades and takes over the galaxy in a book series. The Vong are the Vong in the Clone Wars unfinished content canon? Yes or no? And then Matt Martin replied and said there isn't any content out with them in it. Meaning, if there's no current content with them in it, it's not canon. Leland Chee then replied and said, general rule, if it doesn't appear in final content, it's not something we hold ourselves to in future content. I love how they reply, because they always reply very vague, Mm-hmm. But I actually replied to Leland and said, what about Crystal Crisis and Bad Batch? If you remember those are the unfinished animatronic episodes that they released, right? Have you seen those, Cody?
Yes.
Right. So there's 4 episodes of Crystal Crisis. There's 4 episodes of The Bad Batch. And at the time released, they talked about them being canon, right? I don't think there was really official. I mean, they're listed on the chronological order when you go on StarWars.com, and there's a chronological order of watching the Clone Wars. It's listed on there. Crystal Crisis and Bad Batch are listed on there. So it's implied that it's canon. Now, that's what I asked. I said, what about Crystal Crisis and Bad Batch? Are those considered final content? Right? Because final content is canon. And Leland replied and said, nope. Do we allow ourselves to use that material in other content? Absolutely. So again, being a little vague, but to me, that's saying that those unfinished pieces are not canon necessarily. Is that what kind of what you get out of it?
I mean, that's what I would interpret that answer being.
Right.
I guess I'm maybe surprised, but I guess by the definition they gave us, not surprising. Just because, why would they? I mean, I guess they released that for the fans, and I'm glad they do that kind of stuff because it's cool. We have those unfinished Boba Fett arcs.
But they haven't released really anything finished. They haven't released any episodes of those, really. Just the kind of concept art and a couple scenes.
Yeah.
So that I don't know is considered canon, because there's a big episode of that, like you said, with Boba Fett and Cad Bane. That explains that thing in his helmet, that dent in his helmet. But I don't know if that's canon because it's not finished material. So
right. Yeah.
I wish, again, I've said it 100 times on the show, I wish they would just finish those Crystal Crisis and Bad Batch, fully animate them and just make them real. But
when they have their streaming service, why can't they? Because you think about how Netflix is able to pump out content, and sometimes you would get movies that might not have had success or be greenlighted from a studio, but Netflix has the means and funds to maybe help out some of these shows that get canceled on network.
Yes.
So, I mean, maybe it's just a matter of they don't want to go back and spend time and money. I mean, they're so far from Clone Wars animation now with Rebels that I don't know that we'll ever get that again. But with
Probably
Disney
not.
streaming service, I don't see why that could never be a reality.
Right.
When they don't have to air them, they'd have to eat the cost of, you put it up on iTunes for people to buy. People are going to buy that. You put a Boba Fett episode from Lost Missions, part 2 or whatever, and you just release them all out of context and, couple episodes. I mean, people would pay I would pay
I would too.
to watch it.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, that's a later talk. We can dive into that later. So appreciate everybody listening and sticking with us. Again, appreciate Cody Geiler. Follow him at Cody Geiler on Twitter. Thanks for joining me for this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Of course, InsideTheForce.com. Get all of our episodes, and we will be back next week to talk about Rebels and whatever brand new stuff that comes out on Star Wars. So, and just a reminder again, on Tuesday the 6th, the novelization of The Last Jedi will be out. So go check that out and get that, and we'll talk about that as well at some point. Thanks for listening, everybody. For Cody Geiler.
See you, everybody.
I'm David Cottingham. May the Force be with you.
Thank you for listening to Inside the Force, a Star Wars podcast hosted by David Cottingham and Casey Cooley. For more shows, additional content, articles, and the latest Star Wars news, please visit InsideTheForce.com. Inside the Force. For the Force, then all of us.